Hello, everyone, and welcome to another short course presentation from Action to Service. Today, we're going to talk about training, connecting the bridges. Now, when it comes to training, um, one thing that I have come to learn over my years of working for different organizations is that training is something that a lot of this is you're going to say, wow, this should be common sense. But I think a lot of people will agree that a lot of things we're going to talk about simply don't happen in in many organizations when it comes to training. So we're going to talk about that today. And remember, Action to Service, we do provide different trainings. Our trainings are very specific to frontline employees. We're all about professional development, professional growth. If you would like more information about us, just go ahead and at the end of the presentation, we'll have a slide up. We'll also have some information down below of how you can reach us if you got any questions or you would like to utilize our services. Now, these short course trainings, these presentations normally run about 30 minutes. We really don't go over that. So we really kind of touch on some of the key aspects of the topic of today. And today's topic, as we just discussed, is training, connecting the bridges. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and let's get started with today's presentation. So, presentation overview, our talking points. We're going to talk about why train your team. This is something, like I said, is one of those common sense things, but we really feel like sometimes people need to hear more in-depth reason that hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will have gained some clarity regarding this, why training is important and how it can really benefit you instead of just documenting that, yes, we provide training, but why it's actually necessary. We're going to talk about creating the training program. We're going to talk about connecting the bridges, which is the title of this training. We're going to talk about team contribution and don't fear feedback. And once again, at the end of this presentation, you will see our contact information if you would like to reach out to us for any questions or utilize our services. Why train your team? Man, let me tell you, I'm telling you, throughout my years in this industry, this is one of the key problems I see with many organizations. But this is something that can really resolve a lot of organization problems. It can really resolve a lot of the problems within an organization. But training is awfully often underused, underappreciated, is undervalued. But when we talk about training done the right way, effective training, okay, can really foster teamwork. It aligns goals and strategies and procedures. And the key thing is it gets everybody on the same page. We wrote an article that we posted on our website that kind of talks about this, but we talked about the fact that a lot of organizations, when they implement training, the training is primarily done based on different individuals. I know a lot of security departments will sort of hand over a person, say, hey, walk around with this person, they'll teach you. Same thing with the hotels, same thing with just many organizations. They're simply placing new employees in different people's hands. And each person sort of has their own way of doing things, their own way of going about business. So there's nothing consistent about the training, which sort of leads that new employee to feel kind of confused. And they really don't understand which is the right procedure that I should follow. And this normally happens because a lot of organizations simply don't structure their training. It's not really laid out. It's just assumed that because this individual has been here for a number of years, that they know how to do things and they get things done. But how many organizations really follow up to ensure that these employees are actually following company protocols when they're doing things? So when a new employee does something and all of a sudden it hits the spotlight, that new employee can only say, well, this is how I was trained to do it. But yet he's in the process of probably facing a disciplinary process. So we have to really think about our training. Effective training means it's consistent. Everybody is taught the same thing. They're given the same skill sets and opportunities. Like I said, when you have different people conducting training and there is no structure about it, there is no follow up to ensure that everybody is teaching and educating new employees on the same thing, you run into the problem of inconsistencies. Next up, when employees are well trained, it possesses a skill and a knowledge to where they can perform the task more effectively. Oftentimes, this is where customers will come to find out, like, I don't think this company really knows what they're doing. Or have you ever had a situation to where a customer dealt with one employee and they felt like that employee had no idea how to handle the situation, and then they speak to another employee who's doing the exact same job, and that employee was able to resolve the issue in a minute or 5 minutes? This is something we see within a lot of companies, and it goes back to the inconsistency of training. But when we talk about why train your team, training your team so everybody has the same knowledge, same understanding, and same skill sets provides better service to your customer, better interactions. You're running more efficient because everybody has the knowledge. Everybody knows how to deal with customer complaints. They know how to deal with issues in softwares or programs. They know how to properly direct people who have concerns that are above their level that may need a higher up approval. These are the things that you have to consider and why training is so important, why training is such a valuable tool, because not only does it bring consistency in being able to achieve the company's mission, but it also brings consistency and better customer service when all employees are trained effectively on how to do their job. What are their limitations? What is their exact role? How do they perform certain tasks? And what happens when they get to this stumbling block? Instead of leaving them in that gray area where most employees find themselves at times, to where they're just in this gray area where I was not trained beyond this point. I don't know what to tell you. And oftentimes, when they try to bring in a supervisor or manager, it's the same thing, which leads to a disgruntled and unhappy customer who's now posting on social media, posting on any platform that they can just really say how unorganized, how unprofessional, and how unknowledgeable the employees are for that company. Next, creating a training program. This is something that I see in so many organizations that totally just goes, it just goes out the window. And it's really unfortunate. There are in some cases to where companies simply don't want to hire someone who is specifically dedicated and understand what it does to create training programs. They don't want to invest the time or the money, so they sort of leave it up to the departments, and they may just sort of toss that role on a supervisor or toss it on a manager. Make sure your people are trained. But here's the thing, training programs are not one and done. And that is something that I see a lot. I see a lot of organizations where they will conduct a training and it'll be the end of that training. Training should evolve and measure employees' growth. It is very important that your trainings evolve. So when you're creating a training program, you really need to understand the fundamentals of how that training is going to impact that department, that frontline employee, all the way up to the supervisor and upper management. So when you're creating a training program, it needs to be relevant and specific to employees' duties, and you build upon that. The problem is some organizations will simply just throw out a training, and employees will take the training and they'll just kind of sit there like, well, you know what? Our software doesn't even do this. We don't even have these programs. We don't even have that position in place. We don't even have those resources to address those issues. So, yes, it's great information, but it's not suited or directed towards what we do on a day-to-day in our operations. So the training was information, but not relevant or specific to what they do. When creating a training program, Make sure you understand the day-to-day operations of your employees, of your departments, because that's where your training needs to be built on. It needs to build upon that, build upon the day-to-day operations. So understanding what actually takes place within that organization instead of just having random generic trainings brought in that really don't benefit the employees. Trainings also need to set employees up for organizational growth. It is very important. This is so crucial that a lot of companies are using outdated training materials, outdated training programs. If the company is planning to implement a new software, you know, how are you going to implement the training for that? In 5 years, if you're going to be building a new building or you're going to change the mission, you're going to change the program of services that you're offering, how are you preparing your employees for that transition? So not only do they understand the transition, what their role is going to be in the transition, how the transition is going to affect them, but also when they get inquiries from customers, how can they address it? How can they let the customers know that they can still feel comfortable in the product or service that the company is offering? So it's very important that as a company starts to grow and they start to, bring on more resources, they're starting to elevate maybe some of their internal programs and software and network. It's very important that they train the new employees on the potential growth, where the company is going. Failure to do so will create insecurities. Failure to do so will create employees that don't feel connected, as well as employees who are unable to answer public questions. Oftentimes, companies will publish the fact that, hey, our company is going to be doing this, and employees simply have no information to share with potential customers or current customers on the direction the company is going. So when we talk about creating the training program, first, make sure you fully understand the day-to-day operations of each department. Create a training program based on what you have in place now. That training program should also reflect the knowledge and skill level that employees need to essentially function in that job properly. So you should be measuring how successful are your training programs really working to where your employees are able to grow and benefit from these trainings. So the title of this training was Connecting the Bridges. This is another issue that when it comes to training, many companies kind of miss the mark. When we talk about connecting the bridges are basically the departments within the organization. I'll give you an example. If you have a nursing home and you have a security department, so if the nursing home has a medical emergency, okay, with the medical emergency, they have already dispatched and said, hey, we got a patient who's potentially having a heart attack. We've already started CPR. Can we have paramedics on scene? So paramedics are en route. Now, who plays a role in what's going to happen? Because now security needs to be coordinated as a part of this. Because not only do they need to make sure that the paramedics are able to get in to the quickest route access point quickly as possible. If they're on the third, fourth, or fifth, or second floor, is there an elevator available? Can the elevator accommodate a stretcher, the equipment, enough for the paramedics to get them up there, or do they have to push a button and wait? So when you are talking about departments, each one is a bridge. Training should connect the departments together. So each department should understand, if this happens, what is my next access? Who do I need to connect with to make sure that this works efficiently and goes as smoothly as possible? So you need to connect security to those nurses. Your protocols, your trainings should train all the way up to when you call paramedics, how do you bring in security? Security, When those paramedics arrive, how do you get them to the nurses without being intrusive and allowing them to do their job? Also, your training should connect how you are communicating to the paramedics and security, how you're communicating to the paramedics as well. So, in reality, the bridge has an external resource that you need to connect into your trainings. And this is the problem. If you take a look at the photo on your right with the man pointing up and the woman pointing down, oftentimes in the middle, that break in there is the customer. As you can see in the photo in the bottom, the customer is caught between two bridges. And oftentimes they're trying to figure out what is going on. And they can be bounced back from one department to the next department because training and policies have not been created to properly connect each department together. That when customers or projects are being created, how do you tie it together? So if you have to transition from one to the next, or if you have to work together, how do you create that smooth transition so that both sides, both departments within that company can function efficiently? And we matched the sort of story go earlier where we talked about bringing in the paramedics, where you got now have the security on site, you now have the nursing area on site. How do you bring them in and connect? Security training should help them to understand how to communicate with the fire department, what information they need, what needs to be relayed to that fire department. Nursing department, same thing. What information needs to be relayed to the fire department? What are they doing on scene? All of these three groups tie together because if one fails, they all fail. You don't want to be a situation to where the fire department is standing around for 5 or 6 minutes because they couldn't get an elevator, or they're waiting for other people to get off, or the elevator may be held upstairs because somebody's talking, or the elevator may be held because they may be moving furniture, so the elevator is sort of locked down and inaccessible. These are the things you have to think about within your organization. So when it comes to connecting the bridges, do you train your departments that when they are working together, how do you connect? Your training should relay that. Your training should emphasize how to connect one department, pass on one customer to the next. Do you know where to properly submit another customer when they have a question or concern? Instead of bouncing them to the wrong department, are you trained where to send them, how to help them? So connecting the bridges is training your departments how to interact with each other, building company policies that also connect your departments together. And it's basic, that's going to be more like a tree branch. If this arrives, you go here, you go there. How do you get them back? How do you get to the end solution to where all parties communicated and effectively operated for the benefit of the company, for the benefit of the customer? Team contribution. Man, this is something, let me tell you, this is something I think a lot of people can agree with when it comes to training in general. And, what you're reading right before you on this slide, you know, many training programs fail because they overlook a critical factor that's involving the frontline employees. Once again, in all my years of working with corporate and then working with the higher education, this is one of the biggest problems I've seen is that frontline employees are not really included in the implementation of new trainings. And this normally results in companies or organizations deciding that, hey, we're going to bring in this new software and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, but they don't consult the frontline employees who are actually performing the day-to-day operations. And then companies feel proud that they've introduced something new, not realizing that what they brought in has inadvertently led to creating more problems than solutions as far as the frontline employees being able to do their work. You know, frontline employees, they're conducting the day-to-day operations. They have so much information about what is going on the ground level that really and ultimately affects the profit and the bottom line. For colleges, it affects retention. For corporations, it affects the profit. This information is often untapped. It is often untapped, not even assessed. And when this happens, it normally creates a problem. And companies are like, listen, we just spent $500,000 or $1 million for this program, and you guys don't seem to understand that we're trying to help you. The employees, on the other hand, are basically saying, listen, we didn't need that. We needed this. This is the problem that comes with that. This program that you purchased is not working. It's actually creating more problems. And especially when, oftentimes, this is not to bash IT departments, but sometimes when you got departments that do have to work together, facilities, IT, and you're like campus police or campus security, they're always interlinked. Everything they do is going to be interlinked. So when one of those departments make changes or implement something without really consulting the other, it normally leads to issues. You cannot buy a software program and implement it without talking to the IT department, because can the servers handle it? Is it properly fitted to protect the network and the infrastructure, to where it can't be hacked? So there are different things that come into play as to why team contribution is so important. When I say frontline employees, implementing something and then having your frontline employees are the ones who are responding to your emergencies, and they're finding out that, wow, this program runs really slow. If we have to lock down, this would be a real challenge, even for your facilities department, like, hey, you know, we can't access this outside of the campus. So it'd be difficult for us to control the AC units or make adjustments to the AC units. So the boiler, so there's different things that come into play. Team contribution is crucial and essential for companies. You have to dig in and get that information. Number one, it can probably save you money. And number two, you can have a better understanding of what your frontline employees need to function more credibly, to function more, with confidence in the fact that you're giving them solutions and you're hearing them, makes them feel like you have a real buy-in into their thoughts and opinions of how to do things better to support the company mission. And, the final slide, man, is don't fear feedback. I think this is the problem with a lot of companies. They have a lot of great ideas, but they fear feedback. So they don't want to share the initial plans with the frontline employees. They want to wait till it's been implemented and already activated before they actually consult with the frontline employees who are performing the actual work. And this is just creates this fear. And let me tell you why. A lot of companies don't solicit feedback. Number one, budgetary constraints. And they fear that asking the frontline employees their insight, their opinions, is just gonna, open the door for a potential unveiling of issues that they feel ill-equipped to manage. You know, is from fear that they might be deep-seated problems requiring significant financial investment or organizational change to rectify that they just simply cannot fix. There's the worry about opening Pandora's box, to, from employees, ranging from grievances to systemic issues. And the organization just might not have the resources or strategies in place to effectively address these issues. So most organizations simply feel like we're just going to put it out there, we're going to put it into place, and once it's done, it's done. We'll deal with whatever comes afterwards. Besides, we're top management, we're the owner, so it really doesn't matter. But when in reality, it does matter what the employees think. It does matter about the knowledge and information they have from day-to-day operations. And I think some companies would really be surprised that they can actually save the company money based on the information that they have regarding day-to-day operations. But most companies do, they fear feedback. They really fear, allowing employees to have that voice. And oftentimes they'll either sort of minimize the opportunity to speak or share their thoughts because they sort of isolate their ability to speak through like a very small minimum process. They may send out an email, answer 5 questions, but the 5 questions don't really allow for the employee to expand on what the true issues are because they don't want to get to that. Do you like this program? How long have you used this program? Do you feel you've been sufficiently trained on this program? And a small boss like, what would you like to see different? And they'll do like a multiple choice. So the employee really can't expand. They really can't share what knowledge they have. I just really want to ask companies to like, don't be afraid of feedback with the understanding of just being honest about the fact that, hey, this is our budget. This is how much we can afford. This is what we're looking to spend right now. You know, this is what we're trying to do. Getting your employees feedback on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. Like I said, you're getting that buy-in because the employees feel like they're being valued. They feel like their opinion matters. And then following that up with, hey, we heard what you guys said. We heard your ideas. So we're going to take everything you said and we're going to see if we can find the program or software or implement what works best for us right now. Some of the things we may be able to do later. But it's just really a matter of putting everything together so that employees can feel like you're hearing us and you're not just throwing stuff our way. And then when it doesn't work, as we mentioned earlier, now you want us to work miracles to be able to fix what you just simply thrown in our laps. Don't be afraid of feedback because sometimes getting that feedback can help you prevent potential problems down the line. If you are having systemic issues, if you are having employee issues, if you are having management issues, employees feeling unsure about a manager, employees having doubts about the company, this is your chance to address those issues and build a model for addressing employees' concerns to where you can help retain employees, where you can help better train your employees, because sometimes the information you're getting can be resolved simply by offering the right training. The right training is what you can offer your employees to build a better company, support the mission, and also help the faster, finish up projects and build better relationship with your employees. Okay? So don't fear feedback. All of you company managers and leaders, do not fear feedback. Do not fear it. Okay? All right. So we hope you enjoyed today's training on this little short course presentation. As I said, my name is Reginald Maddox. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. Here is our phone number, email address. So if you would like a copy of this presentation, if you would like additional information, if you have any comments or concerns or topics you want to hear discussed, hey, drop us a line, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to reach out to you and share our thoughts and see what we can do to work together. So please, if you're interested in joining one of our live webinars where you can ask questions live, same thing. Just reach out to us, send us an email, let us know, and we'll let you know the next available date. And we will let you be a part of that live so we can share with you your thoughts and our ideas together. And so that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please share this with other people. Share this with people who you feel it might be some helpful information, some insight for them. So please pass this along. But once again, thank you for joining us today. My name is Reginald Maddox, and this concludes this webinar for training, connecting the bridges. Have a good day.